Today on the YouTube, we are going to be talking about um, inner child. So today's tarot video was talking about narcissists, and throughout that channeled reading, the numbers 745 came up, and that brought me back to a childhood memory because in elementary, I think that's when the school bell would ring and we'd have to get ready to go to class. So that kind of brought up um, a childhood, just like a feeling. So, and even narcissists, I know a lot of people when they're children, they don't know what narcissists are. You know what I mean? They don't know the manipulation tactics until you get a little bit older, maybe like 8. I mean, you probably do know what they are at some point, like you pick it up, but you don't uh, give it a name like, oh, this is manipulation, this is abuse, until you get a little bit older to maybe like 8 or 9. That's when you might be piecing things together if you're more on the advanced side of things. um, like I said though, you probably are aware of this as a child. You might not know what it is called and that it's actually toxic. But anyway, so inner child. Speaking of inner child, I have right here some shrimp chips. This is a childhood snack that I used to have all the time. So it's pretty um in line with the message. But anyway, yeah, so inner child. Um as you're growing up, everyone experiences different wounding from your parents, from your friends, from your environment, all that different kind of stuff. Um, so as we get older and we progress like into high school, and then if we go off into like trade school, college, things like that, those wounds follow us unless we deal with them. So dealing with them is called shadow work. If you're on a spiritual journey, like opening your chakras or just trying to heal, that's normally what they're talking about. Is they're talking about going back deep down into your subconscious, the things that were happening when you're a child. You can even go as far back as to when you're in the womb. That's called Dianetics. Dianetics is a science or a theory that you can be conditioned in the womb. It talks about being unconscious, and then your mind is still there, and the smells, the sounds, the voices that you hear can imprint on you and condition you. So that's basically what that is. If you want to look that up on Google, if you're interested, it's Dianetics. Um, yeah. But anyway, so the childhood wounding, it might be early on in childhood, so you might not remember. So in that case, you'll probably have to do a meditative practice where it's you are intentionally trying to bring up wounds. You can also use crystals. I've worked with different crystals before. Be warned, not all crystals are for everyone, especially if you're just starting out. Some crystals that I could share that would help with bringing up trauma would be obsidian, black tourmaline. I just got Arfden site, so that's a good one. Numite. But just know that even the crystals, they could be high vibrational, and you might want to work with them just a little bit just to get used to the energy itself and what it brings up. And you can always put it to the side and take a break, then go back to it later. But you need to be grounded during this process, especially if you're doing shadow work, because it will bring up things that will trigger you, trigger a lot of different emotions: anger, sadness, betrayal, guilt, everything. All the emotions you can think of, it'll bring it up. Even some good ones, you know what I mean? It's not always going to be bad, but most of the time it's going to bring up things that need to be healed. That's why it's called inner wounding. But yeah, when you're along this process, just know that it'll take time. And your memory might be a little bit blurred. might be skewed. So you might have to sit with this for a little while and actually think about it. Like, remember, put yourself back in that situation. That might be hard, especially if it's very triggering or very traumatic. Um, that may take some time. If it's really bad, you might have to go to a therapist. Don't be embarrassed about going to therapy. It helps a lot of people. Uh, just get the help that you need and heal. That's the ultimate goal, is to heal, and you can help others around you heal. That's what I'm doing with this podcast. I've gotten to the point in my healing journey where I have pretty much fully healed everything that I've gone through. Um, like I said, I've went through sexual abuse as a child. I went through all different types of abuse. Not too much physical abuse. I mean, when I was younger, I did get bullied, but it wasn't physical abuse in terms of like parents, like I'm getting beat, but I was sexually abused. Um, I was emotionally and psychologically damaged, but I've healed from those things. I've forgiven those people. Maybe they didn't know what they were doing, and maybe they did. Either way, I've forgiven them. Not more so for them, but more for me to be able to move on. And that's one of the things too. Is a part of the healing journey is forgiveness, forgiving yourself as well. If this is a childhood wound, you definitely want to be aware of the dynamic. So you were in a submissive role, most likely because you are being taken care of, by your parents or other authority figures. But sometimes you can be stuck in the mentality of, oh, I'm dependent. I'm dependent upon this person to survive. I can't really do things on my own. And you might have learned to live your life like this. So going back, looking at your own condition is good because it will uncover these things. Like, so when I was younger, this is a personal example, is I was conditioned to be an empath just because my environment was toxic. I had to be hyper aware of people around me because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I didn't want to do the wrong thing, or else there would be consequences. And then I was also groomed to be a performer. So the only way I got attention or pretty much praise and things like that was through performing. A lot of people might resonate with this message or those particular examples, but that's how I was. And then, like I said, I dealt with bullying a little bit when I was younger, like elementary. But as I got older, I started to fight. So I started to get physical and lash out and things like that. And I just was, uh, I don't want to say better at boundaries, but just more of, I would just lash out at people. Uh, my communication wasn't um, as thorough as it could have been. But again, I think that was also from the conditioning from my family, my upbringing, because when I would speak up, I'm the youngest in my family. So when I would speak up, it would be brushed underneath a rug. It would be belittled. My feelings weren't really validated. So I learned to kind of put myself on the back burner, my needs and my wants on the back burner to please other people, which is, you don't want to do that. Like, you definitely don't want to do that. That's going down the wrong road. If that's you right now, just be aware that is not good. Be able to pinpoint like what exactly you're doing, like how I did. Like, okay, then my needs are being put on the back burner, my wants are being put on the back burner, my feelings, everything. Just figure that out first, and then from there you can take steps to change it, which normally includes boundaries, setting boundaries, and staying firm on the boundaries. So that might mean ending the relationship with people because they've probably gotten so used to just taking from you and you not standing up for yourself that when you do, it's they no longer want to be around you because they cannot get anything from you. You have nothing to give them. So just understand that that might bring up a wound of abandonment just because you don't want to be by yourself, and especially if you feel dependent upon that person, like you cannot be on your own. That's a interesting position to be in because you feel like you need them, although you don't. I mean, maybe you do if you have like a physical ailment or something, then that's a completely different story. Um, I won't go into that here, but for the sake of this video, let's talk about it in terms of you're not dependent upon them. Like, in terms of money, in terms of survival, you're not dependent upon them. So in that case, you might have to end the relationship and move on. That's probably what is most likely going to happen. They might try to gaslight you, or they might try to guilt you into staying. That has happened to me before, especially when I realized my power, the power I hold, and who I am, my self worth, things like that. People started to flip the switch because they realized that I was on the way out, I was leaving, and they are not going to be able to continue doing what they're doing. So you might be going through the same things. But childhood wounds definitely need to be looked at because, like I said, they follow you into adulthood. And a lot of people don't really understand that. It could be both ways, though. It could be the good things, the good conditioning that follows you, but it also could be the bad conditioning. So just look at it from both sides. So like, okay, what good things did you bring in from childhood to adulthood, and then what bad things did you bring in from childhood to adulthood? Because let's say you were similar situation, like you put your feelings and your wants and needs on the back burner, going into like a job situation, they'll take advantage of you because they are gaining from you working hard, you putting yourself, um, putting the company first and putting other people first. So they will definitely take advantage of you. You don't want that. Um, Nobody wants that. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to be treated with respect and wants to be uh, cared for in the way that they care for others. Unfortunately, that's not how everything is all the time. That's why it's called finding your soul family, finding people who resonate with you, know your worth, and you respect each other, and then you have similar wants and goals in life. So it's a lot easier when you're around people who have similar values and mindsets because it's meshes it meshes. Also, you have similar vibration as well. If you have those like mindsets and goals, most likely you have a similar vibration. So on an energetic level, it makes sense. Laws of the universe, like attracts like. So the people around you right now, just be aware of the people you have around you right now. Look at them, look at their values, look at their life. Is it similar to yours? Okay, so is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Do they want the same things you want? Just kind of be aware of your environment because your environment plays a big role in where you're going to be in the future. Um, yeah. Also, childhood too. Everyone is growing up. Everyone is trying to step into who they are, their identity, the things they want. Maybe try new things and they don't like it. Okay, uh, try something else and see if you like that. But these are things that need to be looked at. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't do the necessary shadow work. So they are going out and doing the same things that they did as a child. So that's another thing as well is knowing that even though people could be older, maybe like 40s, 30s, I'm in my 30s, so they could be 40s, 50s, they might still be operating out of the same conditioning that they were before in childhood or high school or whatever, especially if they haven't changed. That's kind of why people say old dogs can't learn new tricks. It's just because they're so used to their way of life or their way of thinking that it's worked for them so long, they don't really have a need to change. So if that's you, I mean, by all means, do you. Hopefully, you're not hurting people. If you are hurting people, then karma is going to come back, in one way or another. So just be aware of that. You probably don't care if it's working for you. So, yeah. But for the other people who are trying to change, I would definitely reach out. Maybe watch some of these podcast videos, research self help books. So I wrote a few self help books dealing with mindset, identity, things like that. Some of the techniques I've used on my journey that have helped me heal. If you're interested in that, you can message me here or find me on Facebook. I think I put my Facebook information in the description box. Also, my website has a list of services I offer. So yeah, but that's pretty much it for this video. Let me know if you're interested. As always, share these videos. My phone is about to die, so that's about it for now. But yeah, share these videos and get the message out.